Right. So first topic we have discussed is related to Tista tunnel was being constructed. Tista river we have discussed. Where is it located? Which state? Assam. Right. So in the Assam, when Tista tunnel was being dug, and there was explosion. There was kind of incident that has resulted in the loss of almost 22 life as such. Okay. So we have to understand overall the basics of explosion. So tunnel. How do you dig tunnel? So what do we have? Tista river, Sikkim, it originates from, right? We have discussed Kanchenjunga peak. From Kanchenjunga, then it goes to West Bengal. From West Bengal goes where? In the Bangladesh as such. It is tributary of river Brahmaputra. So this is the entire mountain and you are drilling tunnel inside. So when you're drilling tunnel inside, what can happen? Explosion. Why explosion happen? Because of the presence of gases. Okay, so when you're digging tunnel, what you're doing? Lot of metals are there. They're scraping against rock. A small fire can spark, and the small fire that a spark can cause explosion because which gases we have present in this tunnel, in this rocky terrain? You have the methane gases. Okay, so this is seen commonly across entire Himalayas. Okay, the eastern part of Himalayas, we have referred them by what name? Assam Himalayas, also called as Arunachal Himalayas. So inside them you have large amount of vegetation. That vegetation, or simply we can say organic matters, are present. Over millions and millions of years, these organic matters have been decomposing inside these mountains. Due to their continuous decomposition, what gases release? Methane gases. So a lot of methane pockets are trapped. Okay, methane gases pockets are trapped inside the rocks. When you dig a tunnel through the mountain, through the rock, what happens? Suddenly they depressurize and they release, and a spark can trigger the explosion. So due to this explosion, and you have very narrow area because it is tunnel, you do not have any place to escape or run away. So it has resulted in what? Casualties of workers have died, entrapment and all we have seen, and this has raised a serious concern about infrastructure, that if you have such kind of risk, there should be a proper adequate infrastructure, safety norms and all that has to be followed. Now methane in hilly terrain, as you have seen, methane is a kind of colorless, odorless and flammable gas. This is important from science and technology perspective. Question can be asked about this. So colorless, odorless, flammable. Flammable means what? Easily can catch fire, right? Organic matter decomposition we have seen. And where are they found? In which areas of mountain? Those area where either you have the presence of coal, right? Think why they would be present where coal is found. What is the reason behind production of methane? Decomposition of organic matter. How is coal produced? Decay and decomposition of organic matter. So it is obvious that if coal is present, methane should also be present there as such. Okay, so that's how you have to use the concept knowledge to find out answer in the prelims also. Okay, if it is given that methane is generally found in the coal bearing areas, even if you have not studied about it before, by using your logic you can say that yes, it is possible. Where else? Where the rocks are porous. Porous means lot of spaces you have inside the rocks. So there, because if you have a space, it is kind of vacant space. In this vacant space, what can happen? Gases can then get stored as a pocket as such. So that is the porous rock. Where else would they be found? So these terms we have discussed in geomorphology. Faults, where the rocks have broken, ruptured, there a gap is created. Fissure, right? Like when the rock is present, rock is not like uniform slab without any kind of deformities. So many times what they develop? Cracks they develop, fissure they develop. So in these fissures also these gases can be trapped. And in which condition, what condition do these gases develop? Anaerobic. Anaerobic means absence of oxygen. Okay, so in those conditions we see development of methane gases. Acha, is methane a greenhouse gas or not? What you can say? It is also an example of greenhouse gas responsible directly for global warming and all, right? So that is the methane in hilly terrain. Explosion mechanism, if you look, how did explosion happen? Simple. Tunnel was being drilled. If you're drilling the tunnel, you are breaking through the rocks, and inside the rock, what do you have? Porous rocks are there, or you have kind of reservoir is there. You broke through the rock, suddenly large amount of methane began to depressurize. So they will expand violently. As they expand violently, they might catch fire. And when they can catch fire? When they are mixing with what? Oxygen. Okay, so they are burning in aerobic condition. You know, for ignition and for fire, what require? Presence of oxygen as such, right? That's why when some fire is taking place in cylinder, what is a gas cylinder? If it catches fire, how would you extinguish that fire? You wrap around some wet blanket. Why are you wrapping wet blanket? Because it cuts off what supply? Air supply. Once air supply is cut, what will happen? Fire will extinguish. So that is why methane, because as long as it is inside, because think, if inside hill we are saying methane is present, why it is not in this burning by itself, because it is in which condition? In the absence of oxygen. There is no air or oxygen as such. Only when air and oxygen is supplied, what do you see? You see the spark and all. So ignition was a spark, and also gas pockets become hard to detect as such, right? Because they are very small in amount and very deep. Why Sikkim is vulnerable? So first of all, Himalaya is which kind of mountain? Young fold mountain. Geology is very young. Okay, still it is in the stage of, we can say, development, growth and all that, because of continuous plate movement. And because of continuous plate movement, a lot of such faults and earthquakes are created here. These faults and earthquakes then provide a possibility for methane to get arranged somewhere or get trapped somewhere. At the same time, landslides, slope flares also contribute to this, right? And then you are doing the anthropogenic activities, human activities, that is what? Blasting and tunneling. So we can say, if question is asked that why we are having tunnel hazards, tunnel disaster, it is neither only natural in nature nor only anthropogenic in nature. It is a combination of both factors. Natural factor that naturally produces methane, and the anthropogenic or human factor that allows those methane to expand, catch fire, ignite and cause this disaster as such. And to some extent climate change impact also we are seeing, because many places, like if you go in the region of Himalaya which is covered with a snow, so snow covered region, and this is region which is permanently covered under snow, right? So if it is permanently covered under snow, that means for millions and millions of years you had vegetation matter here, organic matter here, they are continuously getting decomposed, decomposition is going on, but the gases here are not escaping because they are trapped inside the snow cover. Now global warming is resulting in what? Rapid retreat of glacier, melting of snow. So many areas of Himalayas which always has permanent snow cover, now in the summer the snow cover reduces. So what happens? It allows these gases to now escape out. Okay, so it can also trigger global warming, and the kind of, you can see that vicious cycle is being created. Global warming is resulting in what? Melting of glacier. Melting in glacier result in what? Release of greenhouse gases such as methane. Release of greenhouse gas methane would cause further warming. Further warming would result in what? More melting of glacier. So gradually what we can see, even from the areas such as Arctic and Antarctic, more such gases can release and causing further climate hazard and all. Challenges same. For fertile terrain, GLOF we have seen taking place. What is GLOF? Glacial lake outburst flood. Okay, glacial lake simply bursts when the melting of glacier is rapidly going on. Cloud burst, methane monitoring is required, because in these areas if you want to carry out, you can relate to just now we have discussed what we want to do. Rapid infrastructure development along the border areas, right? So Sikkim, Assam, all of these are in the border areas. So these challenges and these incidents that we are facing, it is not isolated incident. It is expected to take place more in the future as we carry on with our infrastructure development, tunnel digging and all that. So what we need to do? Before we dig tunnel, we need to install what? Sensors in that area to see that whether some gases are present in there or not, pockets are present or not. Climate resilient infrastructure, that is what we have to build. That is the first thing. So that's about the incident. Now the second second topic is cloudburst related news was there. So cloudburst in India, actually in the Assam and Nagaland, right now all of you must have seen, the region that is being devastated by flood is Assam. Brahmaputra river has swollen up. Okay, heavy flooding is being seen. Many villages and cities and towns have submerged. And in geography, if you remember, I told you the largest riverine island of the world you will find in the Brahmaputra river, that is called as Majuli Island. So the Majuli Island, its area is expected to shrink because the strong current of river has what? It has cut and taken a lot of the sediments and the part of the soil of Majuli Island. So Assam, Nagaland area also have flood. Now in this case, what IMD has stated? Yeah, what IMD has stated? Many of the people were saying that this flood is due to what event? Cloudburst. IMD has specified that it is not because of cloudburst as such. Okay, many times people have confusion that if there is a heavy rainfall that is taking place, it must be cloudburst. This is not true. Prolonged heavy rainfall does not necessarily mean that it is a cloudburst event as such. Prolonged heavy rainfall can also happen without cloudburst. We have a proper way of defining cloudburst, we'll come to that. Okay, so IMD basically is saying that this flood is not because of cloudburst. Upper Assam region has been impacted and IMD has given clarification in this regard. So what does IMD say can be referred as cloudburst? What kind of heavy rainfall? If rainfall is more than 100 millimeter or equal to 100 millimeter per hour, right? If it is equal to or more than this, then one we can say this rainfall is the result of which event? Cloudburst event. If rainfall is heavy but lesser than this value, we can say that it is just a long rainfall or very heavy rainfall, right? Not this cloud burst. Second is the area also. This is rainfall per hour. Per hour in how much area? So that generally should be how much? 20 to 30 square kilometer. That means cloud burst, is it a localized phenomena or a large scale phenomena? What is the answer? Highly localized as such. So such a heavy amount of rainfall over a small area, that we can call it is a cloud burst. And what is the effect of cloud burst? Suddenly all the river that is flowing across the mountain, they get flooded by water, okay, and that result in very instantaneous flood, flash flood we can call it as. Flash flood in the mountainous terrain, especially in the young tectonic geologically active mountain of Himalayas, would also trigger what? Landslide. Okay. So in the eastern, in the cloud burst, as far as cloud burst is concerned, this is not very regular occurrences. Prolonged heavy rainfall happens every year in India whenever you have monsoon season. Cloud burst, on the other hand, is what kind of event? Rare event as such. Okay. So maybe once in 2-3 years, 5 years even, cloud burst is seen. The last major cloud burst we have witnessed last year in the Uttarakhand, before that in 2015, before that in 2012, right? So there is a huge gap as such. Now formation mechanism, this already we have discussed in the climatology. Generally for the cloud burst, we have discussed several type of cloud. What kind of cloud should be present in the sky? Cumulonimbus cloud. Okay, we have discussed kind of tall tower like cloud, like this I told you. It is having kind of bulging top, anvil like shape as such. Thunder cloud also it is called as, because whenever you have rainfall in this cloud, what else would you observe? Thunder and lightning activity, right? Why we have cloud burst? Which kind of mechanism? Orographic lifting. So we know that Himalaya has a very steep slope like this, and winds are coming from here bringing moisture. When they strike Himalayas, they are forced to go where? Suddenly in the upward direction. If slope is very steep, they would rise very fast. If they rise very fast in this entire area, what would they develop? Cumulonimbus clouds. And then all the moisture that is condensing would be precipitated out very fast. So what kind of mechanism it is example of? Orographic lift. Okay, windward slope, heavy rainfall would take place. And this result in the accumulation of water in very short area, right? And that can cause what? Sudden collapse of cloud. Basically all the moisture is condensed in a very short time. What are the hot spot in India as far as cloud burst is concerned? So it is obvious, because the orographic lift has to take place. Where orographic lift will occur? Only when you have the mountainous terrain. Which are the mountainous terrain with steep slope? Okay, not only mountainous terrain, Eastern Ghat also is a mountain or hill, but they are what? Very gentle sloping or very low elevation. Here you cannot have significant or the sudden rise of air. So which are the regions? Himalayas, Northeast Purvanchal and Western Ghat. Okay, that's why Wayanad region, if you go, lot of rainfall and landslide we see, sometimes they are also caused by the cloudburst like phenomena. And most importantly, radars we have placed, but not everywhere in these mountains. So radars many times do not pick up the signature that there is a possibility of cloudburst. So that's why we cannot even alert people, okay, evacuate people from those areas. A sparse AWS, automatic weather station it is called as. The network of automatic weather stations, the number of automatic weather stations that can analyze the weather conditions, rainfall, humidity, precipitation, these are also what? Less in number, okay, that further increases the vulnerability. And most importantly, the forecasting that we use today is of general forecast over large areas. So we are looking at weather over 200, 300, 400 square kilometers. Cloud burst on the other hand is limited to how many kilometers? 20, 30. So what is the requirement? We need to focus on forecasting at hyper local level, okay, at kilometers level as such, 5 to 10 kilometers and all. And recently, okay, this government of India and IMD are building upon this, where they are planning to provide forecast at what level? Village level. Okay, so village level forecasting will be done. That is the hotspot and challenges. India's initiative, IMD Nowcasting, okay, that is the name of this, what I told you, village level forecasting will be done. Mission Mausam has been announced, right? Doppler weather radars that will understand how the movement of the wind is taking place and all that. AI based forecasting will be using, and all of this would be able to help us in what? The hyper local predictions. Okay, that is the purpose here. Third topic is related to soil conservation. Okay, soil conservation as far as India is concerned. So why was in news? Because recently the government of India under the Ministry of Agriculture, they have again emphasized that there are many programs and the schemes they have run or announced in recent time, which is to focus upon soil conservation. What are the schemes? So soil health card that measures the health of the soil as such. What are the nutrients and all, right? Because in India you also have problem of what? Urea overuse. Why people are using overusing urea? Because they do not know that which nutrients are missing, which nutrients are this surplus in the soil as such. So soil health card will provide them that data. Natural farming mission, that means we are shifting to natural method of farming. Organic farming we can also call it as. Khet Bachao Abhiyan, geospatial soil mapping to understand the soil health of India. And overall our focus is on making sure that agriculture is becoming digitized in nature. Now why we are focused upon soil conservation? So government of India states now that soil is not only important for farming, it can be considered as which kind of resource? Strategic resource. Why? Because this is the foundation of entire agriculture. 50% of people still in India earn their livelihood from which activity? Agricultural activity as such, right? Still a significant amount of contribution to the GDP of country comes from agriculture and all that. And most importantly, if agriculture is compromised, what else would be compromised? People's food and nutrition security as such. So foundation of agriculture, it is the basis on which we are ensuring the food and nutrition security of people. It is also important from what perspective? Nutrition, nutrient and water retention as such, right? For example, if this area you have dense soil or thick soil cover, in the case of heavy rainfall, what will happen? Soil has a lot of porosity, spaces in between. So this excess rainwater will start to accumulate here. In the dry period, these groundwater then you can extract for several purposes, irrigation, drinking and all that kind of thing. If suppose that soil is continuously being degraded, eroded and all that, you are only left with what? Rocks, okay, which is kind of impermeable. That means the groundwater level will also reduce significantly. Then also it helps us in what? Ensuring climate resilience, because it helps support plants, trees, okay, and all this that act as a sink of the this greenhouse gases. And most importantly, livelihood of which community? Rural. Even people who are not directly engaged in farming or agriculture, they are earning in rural areas, or they are indirectly dependent in rural areas on which sector? Agriculture. Okay, so that's why like blacksmith, they are making iron implements and tool to be used in agriculture. Potters are there and all that. So these initiatives that we have seen, same things written. Government initiative in this regard. Major soil type, this is from a static part. I think we have extensively covered in class, no need to repeat. How many types of total soil? The study total 8 soil. Out of that, these are the 4 or 5 major ones. Alluvial soil you will find in which area? So the answer will be plain area. Black soil, where would you find? So it is a volcanic soil, you will find in the Deccan Plateau. Black soil also is known for cultivation of which crop? Cotton cultivation as such, right? Red soil, okay, see in the lateritic plateaus where you have Tamil Nadu, Chota Nagpur Plateau, Rajmal Hills and all that. Laterite soil, where would you find? Western slope of Western Ghats, okay, because they develop in areas where you have high temperature, heavy rainfall, alternate dry and wet period. Where would you find desert soil? In the Rajasthan, okay, sandy regions. So this I remember I told you that if you want to bring more and more soil under cultivation, which is the best or most suitable candidate? Desert soil, because they are just missing water. If you develop canal irrigation, if you develop irrigation projects here like Indira Gandhi Canal we have constructed, you can bring these areas also under cultivation as such. So these soil, and apart from that we have what other soils? So we have seen forest or mountain soil we have in India in the forest area. We have also saline soil where salinity content, salt content is very higher. And apart from that, what else do we have? PT or marshy soil we have discussed. So both of them. This written already. Forest hill, saline alkaline, marshy soil. Now India is one of the country which has a huge diversity in soil types. Many countries, especially smaller one, they have not more than 1 or 2 type of soil. How many soil type we have? 8 type of soil. So higher the soil diversity, what it would lead to? Crop diversity. Different soil can support different type of crop. That's why India produces almost all type of crops that you can think of, whether it is cereals such as rice, wheat, whether it is plantation crops such as tea, coffee, rubber, whether it is oil seeds, whether it is pulses, right? Everything is being produced in India. To large extent, what is responsible for it? Diversity that we have in the soil as such. And that's why if you want to really ensure that soils of India remain in use for a long period of time, 100 of years, what we have to ensure? Agriculture should not be heavily chemical in nature. These days, what kind of agriculture we are practicing? A lot of fertilizers we are putting in the soil. A lot of what you have, for example, insecticide, pesticide, weedicides, everything you are putting as such. So that overall, with passage of time, degrades the quality of soil, and that's why we are shifting back to sustainable agriculture. And the example of this we can give as what? organic farming as such, right? So that is the point here. Then next is what we are celebrating, or what we have celebrated actually in the last week, is Kargil Vijay Divas. Okay, so every year since the 1999 Kargil War was Kargil War actually took place. So we celebrate our victory in the form of Kargil Vijay Divas. This year is the 27th anniversary if you measure from 1999. So 27th anniversary tribute to martyrs. Okay, that is the purpose of celebrating this Kargil Vijay Divas, because we know that in 1999, this is also considered as the only, we have fought war with Pakistan many times. Like if you look at the history, 1947, some scale of war we had, then 1965 we had, then 1971, right? After that, 1999. So 1999 is considered by expert as the only full-fledged conventional war as such. Other are referred as skirmishes, for example, or battles, for example. There we have the large-scale uses of the military forces, equipments, air forces and all that. And many people lost their life there, many soldiers of India lost their life there. So as a tribute to martyr, every year we celebrate this Kargil Vijay Divas as a victory, okay, to commemorate the victory in Kargil War, 1999 conflict between the nuclear armed neighbors. Also important to note, 1971-1965 war, when it took place between India and Pakistan, none of these countries had nuclear weapon capability. 1999 is the only war when both countries, India and Pakistan, have access to nuclear weapon. That's why this war was very deadly, because it could have led to the use of nuclear weapons in the subcontinent. So that's why many countries were also actively engaged in this in the war to ensure that it does not escalate. The background is Lahore Declaration was signed. You have that time Prime Minister of India was Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So he visited Pakistan. There Nawaz Sharif was the then Prime Minister. Both of them agreed that we will sign Lahore Declaration. It was an important step taken in the area of peace. Okay, you have actually the bus service also. Both countries have decided that we will resume bus service between Delhi to Lahore. People can easily move and all that. And that time, just few days after the Lahore Declaration, in Pakistani military launched an operation that is referred as Operation Badr. What they did, they entered, we have seen that if you look at the map of India, this side, what is this border called as? Line of control as such. So what Pakistani military did, they did not enter in the way of, by wearing their military uniforms and all that. They changed their uniform and they entered as what? Terrorist. Okay, so they infiltrated line of control, not in the form of military, but in the form of terrorist group and all that. And then they captured the many areas which lies along the strategic Srinagar-Leh highway. The purpose was to cut India's access. This is Jammu and Kashmir, this is Pakistan occupied Kashmir, this is Jammu and Kashmir, this part we know is Ladakh part as such. So the national highway number 1, it connects Srinagar in Kashmir to Leh in Ladakh. The objective of Pakistani was to cut this route. Why cut this route? They might have thought that if they cut this route, Indian army is not able to move into this area, they would pressurize India to negotiate on Kashmir. Otherwise, they will start to take control of this region. They could also ask and seek support of China and all that. That might have been the plan. So that was the Pakistan's objective, to force India to negotiate on Kashmir, or to cede, or basically allow Kashmir to become part of Pakistan and all that. So 3rd May 1999, it was the local people, local shepherds we can say, who, like we have discussed in the geography, many animal rearing tribes we have in this area were dependent upon sheep, goat, camels, and this cattle and all. So they were the first who detected that some intruders, some people who have never seen before in the villages, they have entered in this area. They also are having weapons and all that, but they are not military personnel because they are wearing this local dresses and all that. So they informed the local police and military officers, and that then commenced the high altitude warfare as such, right? So high altitude warfare was commenced, and most importantly, India was able to win the war without crossing line of control. We simply removed all the people, all the soldiers who have entered into our side, and took control of the entire area back as such. The most important operation launched here is called as, I think on 15th August, a movie is going to be released. Okay, the movie is also named same, Operation Safed Sagar as such, right? So Safed Sagar, why Sagar? You have the entire area covered with thick white snow. Okay, that's why it looked like the high altitude, the ocean of snow. That's a Safed Sagar. So this was launched by which wing of military? Indian Air Force. They began bombarding the regions which were occupied by the Pakistani military and all that. And at the same time, Navy also responded by sending its naval assets in the Arabian Sea area toward Karachi and all that, that we are ready for the war. Plus military, that means Indian Army anyway, was carrying out continuous attack and all that. So this, if you look at the map here, this point if you look, where is Kargil? This, okay, just nearby line of control. So they have entered, crossed the line of control, and they have taken control of this areas and all that. And this region you can see, this area, this is the Siachen Glacier, AGPL and all that you have. So major battles that was fought, some of the places that comes news every now and then, this you would have heard definitely. Tiger Hill, every time there is a talk about Kargil, this point is always mentioned. It was the last point which was the most difficult area to be recaptured due to its very high altitude. Okay, so in the last we have been able to capture this. Toroling, Tiger Hill, 0.4875, Patalik, and apart from that some battle also took place in the Mushko and Kakasar region. So total 5 major area, okay, 5-6 major areas where battle was found. All of these are basically in this area, okay, if you have to write. So this region, okay, is where they have taken the control of. So we were able to take back, wrest back control, and on 14th July 1999, Prime Minister that time declared operation was called as Operation Vijay, the last leg. So Operation Vijay is what? Successful. Why successful? Because we have recaptured and reclaimed all posts that were captured by Pakistan at that time. It was a clear example of military professionalism, and the win in this war was recognized globally for the first time, that India has clearly been dominant and its military has prevailed in this area. That is the this point. Then last we have is the bank, this we have just talked about an example, right? Bank of Baroda. So cyber crime example of. So cyber attack took place and data breach we saw, where the Bank of Baroda server was targeted, and it is alleged that okay, how much data? 1 terabyte, which is very high volume if you look at all the records, information and all that. So alleged 1 TB of data was leaked. And where was this data leaked? Answer, it is on the dark web as such, right? We will discuss about dark web. Forensic investigation was carried out. Core banking, however, was secure. It is believed that all the core banking information that you have, that is secure. What is leaked is some information about the customers of Bank of Baroda and all that. And it has raised concern about the cyber threat and the cyber security. Apart from that also, if you look at the recent times, again, most of cyber attack that takes place in India seems to be backed by, if not directly carried out by, Pakistan and China as such. APT has emerged as major group. It is backed and funded by both China and Pakistan that keep on carrying out attack. So 2026, few months back, you have Tata Electronics, its servers attack. 24, BSNL, okay, that is the government of India's telecommunication company. 2024, you have WazirX, that is a platform, and people have invested there a lot of money. They had their crypto assets there. So a lot of those heist. Why we are calling it heist? Because money was stolen in large volume. What do you call it as? Money heist, for example, right? So WazirX crypto heist has taken place where a lot of people lost their investment money and all that. So that is the thing. Then ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, okay, data leak 2023, and before that Air India was also subjected to cyber attack and all. So multiple such cyber attacks, cyber incidents have taken place in the recent time, and most of the sensitive data, they are then sold. Where they are sold? Dark web. Right, now see, layers of web we can understand by looking at these 3 terms. One is surface web, which we generally brawl. So whenever you search something, okay, Google gives you back the result. That is example of what? Surface web. Like put legacy IAS Academy. What will happen? Google will give you all the platforms and legacy that the server that is associated. Other is deep web. Okay, deep web basically is what is not indexed. Okay, that means if you search, it will not come directly on Google. But if you have address, you can directly put that address and you can access that this platform as such. Okay, for example, like Gmail. If I put your name and write at gmail.com, Google will not give result that what is your Gmail and all this. But if you open your Google and put your email account, what happens? All the information will come there as such. That is example of what? Deep web, which is accessible to few people. Right? Like for example, your bank account, whatever this money you have or whatever credit cards, debit cards that you have, these are information available on the web, but not accessible to everyone. What is example of? Deep web. Surface web is what? Accessible to everyone. Everyone can switch on their internet, find legacy IAS can scroll through, right? Then comes the dark web. Dark web is not accessible on the general internet servers. If you search something in Google, it will not show you like this. What you need for them? A special browser you need. That is referred called as a Tor browser. Also, the popular name, it is called as Onion router. Right, so you need such kind of special things, Tor browser, Onion router, then only you can access the information and all the things that you have on the dark web as such. And that's why dark web becomes a critical source of providing which kind of access? Anonymous access. Why? Because if you are accessing dark web by using Tor browser or Onion router, no one can trace where this information is coming from or who is accessing this information, because your IP will be completely masked. It is rerouted multiple times. So you might be using this or accessing information from India, but to people it will show that you are accessing from UK, US, somewhere different places. So no one can know that it is you. Cyber security framework, this again we have discussed. How do we ensure cyber security in India? Nodal agency we have is Computer Emergency Response Team of India, CERT we have seen. Then because it is the banking and financial sector, Reserve Bank of India is the regulator of the banking system in India. So they have come up with their own cyber security framework. How all banks have to, or what kind of action steps every bank has to take to ensure that their cyber system remains secure from attack, right? So that is done. Then in every large corporates, I told you about CISO. What is the responsibility of CISO? To activate cyber crisis management plan whenever some threat is detected or threat is imminent and such. And most importantly, if any banking system and its server is attacked, they have to report this within how many hours? 6 hours. Okay, so 6-hour incident reporting should be done. To who it is done? So RBI, obviously it has to be reported to. Apart from that, they also have to report it to this agency here. Certain Computer Emergency Response Team, they will take adequate action. And again here, it is not that the information stolen is only information that is relevant for the banks. Information stolen can also contain information about who? Customers of the bank. So their personal details, address, mobile number, user ID, how much money they have in the account, all these things are there which can be leaked. So this data has to be protected. This is the responsibility on every agency that has this data. The term used in this context is data fiduciary. Data fiduciary means who has access to your data, like banks have access to your data. Government, like through Aadhaar database, they have access to your data and all that. So Aadhaar terminal, data fiduciary such as banking institutions, they have to ensure under which act? Digital Data Protection Act as such, that we have passed in 2023. So if a personal data of any individual is leaked, the responsibility would be lying on the institution itself, and government can put heavy penalty, and they can also restrict programs in which they are participating in all that. So through DPDP, Digital Data Protection Act, we are trying to protect the data of general people in India. Plus these all we have discussed. IT Act, that is a major framework. 2000 was when it was brought in. 2008 was when it was major amendment was made. Section 43 Section 66 it is nothing but already we have discussed. Certain sectoral cert, NCIIPC, I4C and all this, they were created under it. Data protection obligation, critical infrastructure security, NCIIPC, right? So already we have discussed in class. We'll discuss about those also in classes. Okay? So part of static. That's how you have to relate static with what? Current affairs. Right? They're not as we discuss in detail about the Bank of Baroda data leak and all that. Bank of Baroda data leak you can put as an example when you're talking about the cyber threat or the weaknesses or the loopholes in the cyber security of India. You can also discuss about the architecture we have to ensure cyber security in India and all. So that's where it comes. Now, if you look quickly with reference to cyber security in India, consider the following statement. CERT is the national nodal agency for responding to cyber security. True or false? That is true. Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023 imposes obligations on data fiduciaries to protect personal data. That is true. Who are data fiduciaries? Who are having control over your data, who have access to your data. A dark web is indexed by conventional search engines such as Google. True or false? Right. What kind of terms we can use for it? Unindexed. That means you cannot search it simply. Right. So what is the correct statement? 1 and 2 only. Right. Then we have, with reference to Kargil war, Pakistan's infiltration was carried out under Operation Badr. Okay, we have seen that Pakistani military entered India, infiltrated India in the form of terrorists. Achha, why did they enter in the form of terrorists? Because in case they are caught in the initial stage itself, they can claim that we are not member of Pakistani military as such. In that case, what will happen? You cannot put responsibility in Pakistan. Pakistan can simply say it was some ragtag terror groups. Okay, we cannot be accountable for that. That was the purpose. India launched Operation Vijay to recapture the occupied post without crossing the line of control. Right, it is true. We did not cross the line of control. Indian Air Force role in Kargil was known as Operation Safed Sagar. So, what is the correct answer? All the three statements, right? 1, 2, and 3. Then, with reference to soils in India, consider the following statement: black soil are known for high moisture retention capacity and are ideal for what cultivation? Cotton. This we have discussed in class. Characteristics we have written: high moisture retention capacity. They are also called as self-plowing soil because of this region. Laterite soils are formed due to intense leaching under high rainfall condition. Okay, high temperature, high rainfall. Alluvial soils are mainly found in the Indo-Gangetic Brahmaputra plain. Right. So simple. All the three statements are correct. Last is with reference to cloudburst. According to Indian Meteorological Department, a cloudburst is rainfall of 100 mm or more within 1 hour over an area of 20 to 30 square kilometer. Achha, this is very important concept. So make sure that you remember this, because in the mains or in prelims also direct definition based questions can be asked. Okay, so cloudburst commonly associated with which cloud? Cumulonimbus. And what is the mechanism? Correct, orographic lifting as such. Third, cloudbursts are easier to forecast than widespread monsoon rainfall. True or false? It is much more difficult, because widespread monsoon rainfall you can easily forecast because it is taking place over a large area, and our system, radar system, automatic weather system, satellite system we have, it is more focused on widespread forecast. Now we are developing the capability to do what kind of forecast? Hyper level, hyper local forecasting, village level forecasting. So that is correct. What is the correct answer? 1 and 2 only, right? So that is from last week. So that is all about this.